Good evening and welcome to the candidate forum for the Mounds View City Council's candidates. I'm Vern Rice. I am the convener of a group called the North Suburban Progressives. It's a discussion group that's been going on for many years, and we are in the process of doing another candidate forum. We've done several of them in previous years and have been commended for doing them, so we decided to do them again. My name is, I say, Vern Rice, and tonight, along with two other candidates, two other conveners, we will be interviewing the candidates tonight. Thank you to Niles Lichtman, the city administrator, for offering this space, and to 9 North for making tonight's and tomorrow night's programs available online. We have 6 candidates, but 2 of them have asked to be excused because of work conflicts. Lance Bartot and Miro Mohammed have asked to be excused. So tonight we will have 3 candidates. I will interview Teresa, and Russ will interview Gary Mielhaus, and Scott will interview our mayor, Zach Lindstrom. We're adding him in tonight because of Lance dropping out at the 3rd spot tonight. Each candidate will be given 30 minutes, and Cheryl will be handing out cards to fill out so that we can get questions from the audience. You'll submit your questions to her, and then she will sort them through a little bit and then pass them up to us, and we will then ask the questions. You need not submit new questions for each new candidate. I'll leave all the questions up here so that those of you coming after me can use them and choose from them too. But if you have new questions that occur with a new candidate, please submit that to Cheryl. We'll ask as many questions as we have time for, and if there are similar questions, we may assimilate them rather than repeat all of them. We'll try to have a 15-minute break between interviews to give us some time for just arranging, but we'll begin now, and so we begin by welcoming Teresa, who is a council member already, and we're so glad to have you here tonight. And
I'm glad to be here.
Are you glad to be here?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Teresa Cermak.
Cermak.
Right.
That's
and you
correct.
are currently a city council.
Yes, I am.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself, even though many of us have met you before and know you, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a 37-year resident of this city. I became quite well known by my work in the drive-thru at McDonald's down the street. I've lived and worked there the whole time I've lived in the city. I've become involved with a lot of other things, but most people know me from McDonald's, so that's my claim to fame, I guess. And I just decided that I was gonna try it.
And you did.
And I did. It was on my bucket list. I won, so I scratched that off. But
How many terms have you been on?
this is my first term.
It's your first term.
Yeah.
So how long have you been a citizen of Mounds View?
37 years.
37 years. Been around?
Same street, different houses, but same street.
Okay. What are your experiences that you would say prepare you for this position to be on the council?
You know, there really wasn't a whole lot except for my desire to service and do things for my city. I ran the festival on the park for 26 years, and a lot of people knew me from there. I figured that I had enough exposure that, I would just decide to throw my hat in the ring.
26 years.
26 years.
Has that changed a lot over the years?
Yeah, and because I claimed it as my kingdom for 26 years, for the last couple, I kind of stayed away from it so that the person who is running it now can make it her own. It's not mine anymore. It's given up.
But you oversaw some changes during...
A lot of changes. We didn't have petting zoos. We didn't have any of that stuff. We had to use the money that was allotted to us. And we didn't get many donations at that time. So we were running pretty slim. But even though we ran pretty slim, we ran a darn good festival.
And it's been growing and
it's
doing well.
Yeah, and
It's a wonderful time of the year.
Yep.
What is your vision for the city of Mounds View?
I don't want to say keep taxes low because taxes are always going to go up no matter what, no matter how high they are. There's always going to be that increment of them going up. But I have to, when I come to this table, I have to be prepared. I have to have researched what people are talking about to see if they're correct or we're correct in the decisions that we make on this council.
So sometimes you have to take on difficult decisions when you're talking about.
Very difficult. Certain subjects can become very volatile.
Besides taxes, how would you describe your vision for the city? What do you want this place to become?
Still a homey place, but not to the point where we're not neighborly and that we're not embracing the citizens of this city. Because whether people know it or not, there are homeless here. There's people of that caliber here, and I have had many people say to me, "Oh, we don't have homeless in this city." I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, we do. And so my goal on here is to bring things that other people don't think about, that I think out of the box. And so when they're telling me there's no homeless here or other things here, I can look at them right to the face and say, yes, there are. I was almost homeless living in this city. And if it wasn't for certain people, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I thank them all.
And the Ralph Reeder food shelf is a big deal here.
Yes, it is. And I've had to use it several times, and I'm not ashamed. They got me out of something that I might have never gotten out of. And I'm just very grateful.
So you're looking out for those that are kind of invisible but still very much present.
But they're very present to me because I was one of them.
That's a passion for you in the city.
It's a passion, yes, it is.
Anything else about the growth of the city or the changing demographics?
No, not really. Because when I came here, like I said, I worked at McDonald's. People were coming in with white gloves and hats. And if you had a Happy Meal toy that was anything but a white Happy Meal toy, they didn't want it. They were prejudiced against it. They did not want it. And I've seen us grow so much from that. That was 1993. And I've seen this city grow so much. And we now have BIPOC. And I think that's really important.
Do you know what the percentage of BIPOC is? That's black, and indigenous, and so forth, yes.
No, I don't. I did not look that up. I do not know. I just know I see them every day, and I've noticed how we went from an all-white community to a beautiful rainbow of colors.
I think it's like 30% or so.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Now, you've already started talking about this, but besides the concern for the kind of invisible people, what are your other priorities for the city?
That we have a very good police department. That's one of my big priorities. That another priority is our fire department, that we are very proud of them. That's mostly in this 4 years, that is what I've been more toward. I'm liaison right now to the police department, and I am liaison to the fire department, and so I know a lot more than most people do because I'm involved with them. Mm-hmm. And I'm very proud of them.
Do you go to different meetings with them?
Yes, I do. I go to the police foundation meetings, and we raise money for programs here that kids can participate in. I go to the fire department meetings to help, to listen to what they want to buy. It's a real funny because we're the only Ramsey County department that's on the Anoka County Fire Board because we are a 3-person department. Two of our cities are in Anoka County and we're in Ramsey County. So it's like I'm the little sheep back there, and they laugh at me. I want, if they're going to have something good and they really want it and they explain to me why they need it, yeah, I will make sure when I go to those meetings that I vote yes.
What would you say is a challenge for the police department in Mounds View?
We're still understaffed. We could still use a couple more officers.
Is that right?
Yeah, we're understaffed.
I've heard so many good things about the police.
And they work so hard, and so do our puppies. They worked hard too.
Yeah.
So we
could have more staff. Are we seeking more staff?
yes, we are. We are not letting our levels down to take something less than what we already have. And I feel that we have excellent officers as it is. So how much further can you go up?
Okay. Any other priorities that you want to mention?
No, that's kind of where I focused this year.
Your
And
focus.
yeah, I've been given assignments.
Visible people, police force,
Fire department.
So, okay. Why are you running this time?
Because I can, because I want to, because I didn't think I was going to win last time, and I did. And so people say, well, are you worried about this time? I'm going to tell you all honestly, if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. That's because I wasn't meant to be here anymore. And so we'll just wait till November 5th. And
You're quite at peace with whatever happens.
I'm at peace with whatever happens. Whether I win or lose, I'm at peace.
I see some of your signs around.
Yeah, I got a few out there.
What are you doing in your campaign other than being nice to me and other people?
I will tell you, when I ran the last time, I put out 5 signs. Didn't think I'd win. Not a problem. This time I only have 3 signs out. Not worried about it. If I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. I hope I have proven by what I have done so far on council that, people will remember that, and that's...
Other than your attendance at council meetings and participating, are there other community groups or meetings where you have chance? I know you're at McDonald's, so that's...
Okay, how long do you got? I started out on the festival committee. Like I said, I served on that for 26 years. I go to Church of St. John's. I've been their Catholic Women's President for 25 years. I've served on the archdiocesan level. I've served, I received all the religious awards for teaching kids in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts a little bit more about their faith. I mean, I've just always done this stuff. This is what I do. I've always done this stuff. So it doesn't seem like it's anything different.
It's
to
just
me.
you expressing your...
Yeah, it's just what I
It's a
do.
kind of a calling, but you don't necessarily use it a calling.
No.
In being on the council, I know there are controversial issues that come up
Yep.
from time to time. How do you look at conflict?
Well, at the time that some of these issues came up, I was still working. And there's certain citizens in this county in this city that will remain nameless, thought that they could come and harass me at my job to the point where I had to have help going out to my car every night to go home.
You did?
Yes, I did.
This year or previous?
It was last year.
Last year?
So, yeah, it almost made me decide, do I want to be scared to walk out my door every day? And finally I told myself, no, you can't be scared. You've got to do it, and you do it, and that's what you do.
Do you see some positive in conflict? Do you see some positive?
If it's worked in the right way, I mean, if you're going to get all these people that no matter what, they're going to do what they're going to do, and they don't want to listen to the both sides of the conflict before they make a decision, then it's not good. But if they can listen and kind of maybe think a little different, and you've made somebody think a little different to the good, then it's good.
Is compromise okay with you?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Good.
Yes, very much so. You don't, I'm not going to sit there and stop something to move ahead because I'm stuck in my ways and I'm not going to give it up.
Do you like to argue?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. I've turned a few heads to my way once in a while, but
Yeah.
I know when to shut up and when to listen. I've learned that from being on this council. So you need to listen. You need to listen.
Listening is so important.
Yep.
Cheryl, do we have any questions yet? We'll take some questions from the audience, and we'll try to make some sense of them as we can. Thank you.
The answer is no. No, I'm just kidding. So I used to tell my kids the answer is no.
Okay, there's some good questions here.
Ooh, good.
These
I like
people
it.
are. When budgets are discussed at work sessions and meetings, I rarely hear a department get turned down. How would you approach trimming the budget?
When you go to a work session, that's a working budget. That's not something set in stone. So some people get very angry because they think that's what they're going to get. But I know in the last couple budget things that we're talking about, if it's something needed and really needed, and we can move something from one place to another, that's what we try to do. So that's the only answer I have for that.
Budget is always comes up.
I know. I know.
Every campaign, every
I know.
discussion, people talk about budgets and taxes. Here's one about communication. It seems to be a major issue with all kinds of organizations that I'm involved in.
Oh, yeah.
Would you change how the council and staff approach residents with website links, social media, printed matter, accessibility? You think we're doing a pretty good job, or should we improve that?
We're doing the best we can at this time. What I'm going to tell you is this. Everybody, when you're doing the communication, now I'm a person, I'll read the Mounds Matters. I read Facebook. I don't reply to anything because I have to be impartial, I mean. But the people sometimes that are complaining about this very issue are the people that aren't reading anything. I know our website is not the best. I remember when that got put into place. It's a hard website to go onto to find anything, and I know that. I was sitting out in those chairs when they decided to do a new website, and I've never liked it, but I tried to navigate with it. But some people are always gonna, sorry people, but some people are always gonna complain about no communication, and they're the very ones that aren't reading anything, no matter what we put out
Or
there.
at least not all things.
Not all things.
Okay, I want to ask a really hot topic, but I want to get back to other things too. But what is your position on organized garbage collection?
I am waiting to see what the citizens vote for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it either way. I know I was approached with that this morning, but I will be honest, I don't live in a house. I live in an apartment complex. So even though I vote the way I vote, it's not going to affect me because I'm not living in a house. I was at McDonald's this morning picking stuff up, and somebody came up to me and was telling me about her garbage bill and how much it was. And I told her right out, I wasn't going to speak to her on that topic. I said, I would advise you. I said, come and talk to me after the election's over. I said, I don't want to influence you either way because it's not going to affect me at all.
You're in a different system.
I'm in a different.
Do you feel like the information is getting out?
The wrong information is getting out.
But the city council put out
Oh,
A little
well,
card that had lots of information.
that had a lot, but we've had stuff out before that by other people.
In Mounds View Matters and so forth. So that's an interesting and important topic to many people. Okay, here's another one. What do you think about banning of LGBTQT and racial books being banned from school?
First of all, I don't know what the initials are, what they mean.
They're books that have to do with the issues of lesbian, gay, that kind of thing, and just generally encouraging children to read books of variety, to expand their, or would you put some limits on that?
No, I would not put limits on that. And the reason I say that is because we should have the freedom to read whatever we want to. If the parents of these children don't want them to read them, it's the parents' place, not our place to start banning books from schools. I mean, I remember as a child reading Little Black Sambo. Well, right now, if you read Little Black Sambo, that's totally banned. And for what reason, I don't understand, because it's a story and it was based on like a little boy in Africa and his lion and all of that kind of stuff. No, I'm going to tell you right out. I do not agree in banning books. I believe in parents limiting what their kids read, but not a library system, not a school system, not anything like that ever.
Okay.
There.
You answered that one quite passionately.
Yes, and because I'm quite passionate about that.
Here's another question. What is your stance on alternative forms of energy, solar, electric cars, increasing public transportation, and others?
I'm used to driving a gasoline type car. So that's what I know. I probably won't be around when they have the solar cars and that kind of stuff because of my age. But I think unless it's going to do something terrible to the environment.
Well, that's the issue, of course.
Yeah, I wouldn't ban them. But if I found out that it was going to do something to the environment, then I would be just as passionate about that as I am about the last
It's about
question.
40% of the environmental problems are caused by fossil fuels, cars. Anyway, so you're concerned about it, but it's not affecting you right now.
No.
Okay. No, does Mounds View have lots of solar panels around on buildings, I think?
Yes. Well, we have them on the community center, I think, and we have them, I think, on this building, but I haven't seen any other ones that I know of.
The follow-up question is here, should Mounds View be leading the charge for alternative energy?
No,
Okay,
that's all I can say about
you want to
that.
let it happen. Okay, we're coming close to the end of the period here. I'm wondering if there are any more questions. Here's another one. The 2022-23 street and trail budget, the community center expansion project, and especially the Arden Hills development project, damaged the relationship between the residents and the city council. Do you believe that?
No,
You don't think it damaged?
no. There's, in sitting here and going to all these things, when the city said no, it's kind of funny that sometimes we should have not put the cart before the horse, because we've been developing other things or talking about other things, and which would have been a lot better fit. So maybe we should have thought about those first before we started with all this other stuff that made people
So there were things that could have been done different or better,
or better.
and
yeah.
there was conflict that did result.
Yeah,
But
but I think we're resolving that conflict.
so the next question is, do you think we need to restore and repair the damage that has been done?
You can always have an open dialogue about those things, and I think this council we have right now has been listening and trying to restore some things. We're getting to the end of the year now, and I'll be really honest with you, until this election is over, it's going to be the people that are on that election, that win the election, are going to be the ones that are going to have to carry on, because if we're not here anymore, we can't continue the work that we have done.
My impression is that you're rather pleased with the way things are going.
Yes, I am. I think we've did a lot of work, and I was just glad to be here to not have to have went through some of the stuff that other people have went through, except I sat out in chairs. So when you're sitting out in chairs, you might as well say you're here, because you've listened and so it's not like you're coming in here not knowing anything.
Right.
Because the first question somebody asked me one day was, how come you come in all these meetings? You think you're going to run for city council? And I said, no, I had no intentions at that time. I just wanted to know what was going on in the city, so if I had to vote on something, that I was prepared.
This is kind of going back, but a little bit of a
Sure.
question. Now, what are the top 3 things that Mounds View needs?
Better, like the Pastor Enterprise,
What?
that the Mounds View Square, that needs to get developed a little bit better, and the street project, I hope that they get that evened out, and
The street project.
meeting the roads that were done this last roundabout. And that I really would hope that we would get back more to like having the board. Now, some people might think this is silly, but I don't. That kids come in and do flag ceremonies for us, show them how democracy is really supposed to work. That's kind of like my platform. Anything to do with kids. As a matter of fact, last year, one of the kids from Mounds View School District won the what would you do if you were mayor for the day? I mean, that's the kind of things I want to see here.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the half hour, but here we have another question. Let's see what this is. What projects have you championed for the past or for the future?
You mean for council or for the things that I have been in?
It would be related to the city. What projects in the city have you championed in the past? I mean, for example, Festival in the Park. You certainly have.
Yeah, but my biggest joy now is being liaison to the police department, and my biggest project there was the daddy-daughter dance, and I've seen that grow from something very little to a big event that everybody wants to bring the dads bring their daughters.
Their daughters.
And we've brought in some great people like the junior royalty from the Winter Carnival. Princess Kay of the Milky Way, at the end of her reign, she had never done something like that before, and she said it was the most enjoyable thing she had ever done during her reign. That's what I want people to know us for, know this city for, that we run.
Like those kind of events.
Yeah, I do. I really do.
So why should we vote for you?
Because I've been here 37 years. I've served with all sorts of people on this council in different ways, and now we've come together to serve together to make this a better city.
So you have that good feeling, and you're
Yes, I do.
willing to do it again if you got elected.
Willing to do it again if I get elected.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Teresa,
You're welcome.
for being able to be interviewed tonight. Let's give her a round of applause. We'll have a brief break now, and then Russ will take over, and Gary will be.
Gary's here somewhere. I saw him walk by.
Is he here?
Yeah.
Where is he hiding in some corner or what?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Vern.
The 2024 Mounds View Candidate Forum. My name is Russ Warren, and the way we have set it up is we give each candidate 30 minutes of give and take on questions, including questions from the audience. And this is being broadcast on 9 News, and we want to thank the City of Mounds View, Niall, specifically for giving us this area, and 9 News for recording it. We have a candidate, we have a mayor's office is open and 2 council members, and there are 6 candidates for the 2 council members. And 2 of the council candidates are not available because they have work commitments, but the other candidates will be interviewed. Teresa Cermak, go ahead.
So there will be 2 more council candidates tomorrow night.
Right.
Catherine and Chris.
Right. Okay, so this evening we did interview Teresa Cermak, and Gary Milhouse is here right now. And Zach Lindstrom, the incumbent mayor, will be interviewed after this one. Yep. And then tomorrow is Catherine and Chris. Okay, so the candidate I'm interviewing is Gary Milhouse. He has been a member of the city council since 2012. And I'm going to turn it over to him for introduction. Tell us who you are.
Well, thank you, Russ. And actually, it's been since 2013. I got elected in 2012.
All right.
I just want to start by first thanking everyone for attending tonight. Russ already thanked the North Suburban Progressives, but I thank you guys for once again organizing these. It's the 3rd year in a row that you've done this. And I think 4 years ago, there was kind of an informal meeting with the candidates. And also a thank you to City Administrator Zygmunt for working with 9 North to record these sessions so residents who are not here tonight can watch them. I have been a resident of Mounds View for 40 years. My wife and I are the original owners of our house on Parkview Drive. We were the 11th house to build in that development, and in fact, we are currently the longest living residents in that development. We've been married. My wife and I have been married for 41 years. We have 2 children. Kelly, who lives in Fargo and is a librarian for Sanford Health, and our son Michael, who lives in Bemidji. He's a teacher and a coach at Trek North Junior and Senior High School, which is a charter school in Bemidji. I have a bachelor's degree in history from California State University, Northridge. And also, after college graduation, I worked for Deluxe Corporation for 36 and a half years. I retired in 2010 as a principal project manager. In 2012, Deluxe asked me to come back on a part-time consulting basis to help manage the closing of a manufacturing facility, which I did for 7.5 months. So that's a quick introduction of who I am.
Okay. All of the candidates were given sample questions, and we'll start with those. What are your experiences that would prepare you for this job?
Well, the first one obviously is I've been a council member for 12 years, so I would hope that has provided some experience. But let's approach it from a standpoint, I'm a candidate running for the first time. So my public service actually started back in 2004. I served on this city's planning commission for 8 years before I got elected to the city council, and I was a vice chair of that commission for 1 or 2 years. I also served on the Economic Development Commission for 6 years, and I served as both the vice chair and the chair of that commission. And for those people who are interested in dipping their foot into becoming an elected official, a great way to get started is to serve on a commissions, because it gives you some starting experience with serving in local government. And I know it helped me tremendously in feeling very comfortable sitting up here as an elected official, because I had sat at this dais as both an EDC commissioner and as a planning commissioner. Also, my experience, my working career experience, was a very positive factor in the end of becoming an elected official, a local council member. So my principal job was, I was a principal project manager. I led several major projects at Deluxe that affected their manufacturing organizations. My boss for the last 14 years at Deluxe was a vice president in the manufacturing organization. And as a result of working directly for him, I had involvement with the manufacturing organization's finances, strategic planning, annual operating plans, and my boss and I at one point developed a vision of where we thought check printing manufacturing needed to be at some point in Deluxe's history. And by the time we both retired in 2010, that vision had actually become a reality. So when I look back on being involved with finances, being involved with strategic planning, being involved in putting together 3-year operating plans, leading major projects, and being involved in developing a vision, those are very similar to what the role of a city council member is. A council member is involved with the city finances. You're involved with strategic planning. You're involved with development of annual operating plans. And so the experience I had at Deluxe, I feel has served me very well as far as being an elected official. And the other thing I would say in closing is that at Deluxe, even though I led major projects, none of the people that were involved in my project reported directly to me. So I had to work with people who came from other parts of the organization. And the key there was working together, partnering together for a common goal, which was the achievement of that project. And the same thing is true as a city council member. You need to work with your other council members for the common good of the community.
Okay. What is your vision for the city of Mounds View? What are your priorities?
When I originally ran for city council in 2012, I ran because I wanted to see Mounds View continue to be a thriving, family-oriented community. For over 11 years, it's been an honor to serve and represent the city's residents. I've enjoyed collaborating with the other council members to provide dedicated public service. And during my tenure, the council has operated in an atmosphere of mutual respect and partnering for a shared vision. I can't say that I have a true vision of what the city is. I look at it more as what do I see as the priorities for the city, for the council. And again, in stating what I see as priorities, the key thing to remember is an individual can have priorities, they can have goals, but you have to work with the rest of your team, the rest of your council members in order for those to become a reality, because it takes 3 votes for anything to happen. So what do I see as the priorities for the city council going forward? Well, maintaining the city's fiscal stability, including managing adequate fund balances, is a very important priority. We need to make sure the city is positioned for potential rainy day situations. There's also an opportunity this year with this council to have a balanced general fund budget for the first time since 2008, for the first time in 15 years. I'm a very strong supporter of both our police department and our fire department. With our police department, the support is in general and primarily very supportive of their community outreach efforts. Our infrastructure is a very high priority from my perspective. We need to continue to maintain our streets, maintain our water, so that when you turn on your tap, you're getting clean water coming out. The sewer is very important, so when you flush, it goes wherever it's supposed to go. And the newest thing that's become a really high priority is stormwater. And our city, for the first time, now has a stormwater management plan. In fact, there is very few, if hardly any, communities out there that have gone to that extent. And in that stormwater plan, there are two high priority projects that the next council, if not the current council, will be asked to make decisions on. One is we have two stormwater ponds at Arden Park, just to the north of the compost site, that have been determined to be no longer functioning as stormwater ponds because they are filled with sediment and they need to be dredged. And then the second important project is Silverview Pond. There, fortunately, we don't have to dredge it, but unfortunately, over the years, there's been invasive vegetation and other vegetation that's grown up around the pond that has had some effect on the quality of the water. And so the project there is to eliminate the invasive vegetation and to start bringing the pond back to how it was back in the 80s when my neighborhood was first built. So I have a little personal incentive behind that one.
Thank you.
My property doesn't back up to the pond, but I have neighbors who do. So,
What is your position on organized garbage collection?
well, I'm surprised if anybody in this room doesn't know my position on organized trash, but for those who may not, I've been a supporter of this city at least pursuing organized trash, probably from my early days as a council member. And when I say pursue it, is the term, is it the right direction for the community? And obviously the residents are going to ultimately decide that in November with the result of the yes/no question that's on the ballot. Why have I been interested in pursuing it? My primary reason was always our streets. We have now, as a community, invested $35 million in street reconstruction. We property owners, we property taxpayers, have contributed $3,125,000 of that $35 million through the special citywide property tax levy for street construction that's been in place. It was 8 years, it was a 300,000, and then for the last 5 years, it's been at 150,000. So I'm one who, when you make those type of investments, and I apply this to my own personal life, I'm one who wants to try to get the most out of that investment, to try to ensure that that investment lasts at least its projected life, if not longer. And so the garbage haulers will argue that their garbage trucks don't damage the streets. They contribute. They're not the sole, but they contribute. They're the heaviest vehicle that goes down our residential streets. So that's been my main driver. Another reason why people have been interested in that is eliminating the number of garbage trucks that comes into your neighborhood on a weekly basis. And then lastly, when I first started educating myself on this particular topic, there were cities out there that were already organized cities. And so I was able to go out and look at their rate structures through their contractual agreements with their haulers. And from what I saw at the time, it appeared that there was an opportunity for also Mounds View residents, or a fairly decent percentage of Mounds View residents, to save money on their garbage bill. So
Okay,
that's where I'm at on that one.
all right. 3 questions pertaining to budget. The first one is from, your flyer says you partnered with the city charter, I think she means the city charter commission, to modify the property tax levy for long-term financial stability. You've been on the council for 12 years. Why the push this year to balance the budget?
Well, I think there's 2 parts to that.
Okay,
So the first part is I do feel that I was probably the leading proponent of the council at the time that approached the Charter Commission to look at the property tax levy limitation that had been passed by the voters, I don't even remember how many years ago, And I will admit, I am 99.9% sure that I voted for it, but I wouldn't vote for such a thing today. Because when I voted for it, I had no understanding of city finances. And when you read a question that you want to limit property tax to a 5% increase, it sounds good on paper. The reason why I felt, and obviously my fellow council members at the time, and there's one that's sitting in the audience, all agreed that it was time for the Charter Commission to relook at the levy limitation. It was 5%, but it was actually 2% plus whatever CPI was. And the other thing that was going on is the charter requires the finance director to put together a 5-year operating plan. And Mark Beer, our former finance director, when he put those together, we started hitting a point where it was starting to show, you get out there in year 4, year 5, our fund balance, which is our money in our bank, our savings account, right, was starting to flow. It was starting to show it was going to fall below the state auditor's recommendation on how much communities, cities should have in the bank to cover their expenses. And that recommendation is that you have 35 to 50% of whatever your general fund budget is. And the reason for that is for cities, their primary revenue is property tax. The cities don't get their first half property tax revenue until late June, early July. So a city needs to have enough money in the bank for those first 6 or 7 months to be able to pay its bills. It needs to be able to pay its employees. It needs to pay whatever it purchases. A city can't run a credit card where you run a credit balance like we can as individuals. So it was starting to show on a consistent basis that we were going to fall below 35%. And so we asked the Charter Commission to take a look at that levy limitation. We are one of 2 cities that have a property tax levy limitation. The other one is a neighbor, the city of Fridley. The city of Fridley's limitation was actually more limited than ours originally. Theirs was 1%. And the city of Fridley ran their reserves to basically 0. They were able to work with their charter commission to come up with a revised levy. Their charter commission ultimately approved 5% with a majority vote and up to 8% with a supermajority. And so we approached the Charter Commission, and Charter Commission looked at the Fridley approach. The Charter Commission worked very closely with Finance Director Mark Beer. They asked Mr. Beer at one point, well, what do you need? Mark said, I basically need 4.5% a year to maintain and cover our increased expenses. Then the question was asked, well, but that doesn't allow any additional staff. So he was asked, well, what do you need in terms of being able to hire a person? He goes, I would basically need 2% to cover the salaries and the compensations. And so as a result, the Charter Commission ended up approving a levy change of 6.5% simple majority and up to 9% with a supermajority. And that was passed on a 6-3 vote by the Charter Commission. The Charter Commission then also had a choice to make. That choice was, do we put this on a ballot for the residents to approve, or do we ask the city council to pass it through the ordinance process, which will require a unanimous vote of the council? And again, the majority of the Charter Commission, and I don't remember if it was 6-3 or 5-4, recommended the ordinance approach. And so that's how it came to the city council, and the city council unanimously passed it.
Okay.
As far as the other part of the question. So, since roughly 2008, it's before my time as a council member, the general fund budget has had a planned deficit of, for years, it was $250,000. Now, there was a revenue, there was a financial source to cover that. It was called the money left over from the sale of the Medtronic property. I don't know. But at some point, that money, the Medtronic money is going to run out. So, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, as part of a strategic plan put together by a previous council, it was recommended that we start gradually reducing that planned $250,000 built-in budget deficit. It's now down to $220,000. So this year, when I got the packet for the work session, when we had our first look at the proposed general fund budget, I saw that Finance Director Bauman was indicating that the general fund needed about a 4.5% levy increase to meet the expenditures. And I saw that, I said, there's an opportunity here to take a bigger slice out of that $220,000 by just, the three of us are willing to support going to 6.25%, 6.5%. So I brought that up at the work session. One of the other members of the council said, why don't we bite the bullet and balance the budget? And that's kind of where it's set now. The balance the budget will require, which means getting rid of that planned deficit. That will require a supermajority because it's sitting right now at about 7.25%. And at least at the work session, there was 4 votes to do that. If that does happen, this city will have a balanced budget for the first time in 15 years, and that then becomes your base for going forward. And also, it leaves approximately $2 million left of the Medtronic money for whatever a future need would be.
So we're drawing money out of Medtronic money
Right,
to balance the budget.
to balance the budget.
Okay.
So,
When budgets are discussed at work sessions and meetings, I rarely hear a department get turned down. How would you approach trimming the budget?
so we're talking about cutting property taxes.
Trimming the budget.
Well, trimming the budget ultimately means cutting property taxes.
If you want to read it that way.
Now, that's how I'm going to choose
Okay.
to address this one. So, my response related to property taxes is probably going to be somewhat different from what you may hear from other candidates. So there's actually 2 ways that you can reduce property taxes that I can think of. One is economic development, and the other one is cutting the general fund budget, which is getting into cutting out individual items or cutting something. You know, economic development does grow a city's tax base. When I say economic development, I'm talking about there's construction projects going on in your community, whether it be housing, apartments, retail, new retail space, manufacturing space. And that does increase the city's tax base. And an increase in the city's tax base does have a positive effect on those property owners that are already living in the city. It will reduce your portion of this, at least the city of Mounds View's property tax. You know, unfortunately, the city of Mounds View, as everyone knows, has limited new development opportunities, unlike cities such as Blaine, Lakeville, Maple Grove, and Brooklyn Park. You know, where they've got plenty of land available, they've got economic development going on. Now, I don't know how their councils are dealing with that when it comes to their property tax levy. And at some point, those communities will be fully developed, because the land is not unlimited. Redevelopment is a challenge in the city, because current property owners have to be willing to move forward with redevelopment. The most obvious example is Mounds Square. Pastor Enterprises know that they need to do something with that property. The city got a grant last year that allowed a study to be put together that presented ideas to them, but in the end, the ball falls in their court. When it comes to property taxes, the thing to remember is that the city represents about 26% of your property tax bill, and the county and the school district represent 70%. So even if the city does cut its portion of the property tax bill, it still doesn't mean that your total bill is going to go down, particularly if the other two main taxing entities are increasing their levy. Or the other thing is you can have all three of those main taxing levies do a 0% levy for a year, meaning they didn't increase it over the previous year. You could still, on an individual basis, see your property tax go up, particularly if the value of your property has been increased and everyone else's has stayed the same. Now, so when you talk about the City of Mounds View's general fund budget, 80% of that budget is two categories: contracts and personnel costs. Contracts make up 20%. You say, well, what are contracts? Contracts are Metro INET, which provides our IT support. It's Ramsey County Dispatch Service. It's Kenny and Graven, our city attorneys. It's also the biggest item in that bucket is Spring Lake Park, Blaine, Mounds View Fire Department. SBM Fire makes up the biggest part of that bucket. SBM Fire is an interesting one. You could have the fire department, Chief Recka and his board approving an increase in the budget. You could have the City of Mounds View and the City of Spring Lake Park be totally opposed to that budget increase. But if the City of Blaine Council says we're fine with it, it's going to happen because they pay 76% of the operating cost. We pay 15%. Spring Lake Park pays 9%. As a result, City of Blaine has more voting power than us. So the other 80% is 60% is personnel cost. 50% of the personnel cost is public safety. So you say you want to cut the budget. You want to cut property taxes. So that means the council has to look at that budget proposal. Well, where is the first place you're going to look? Based on my experience at Deluxe, with the manufacturing organization being the largest part of the operating costs of Deluxe Corporation, guess who got pushed the hardest on trying to find cuts in their budget? The manufacturing organization. Well, in the City of Mounds View, the first place you'd look would be your police department, because it makes up 50% of that. Now, I don't know that there's anyone sitting in this audience tonight who would be willing, supportive of making cuts in the police department. I know I certainly wouldn't be. And then on top of that, there are 3 officers, as I think many of you know, who are actually, their compensation is actually paid for by special property tax levies that the residents of this community passed not once but twice. So you say, well, the police department's out. Where do we look next? Well, your next largest department is Public Works. Let's see, let's cut public works staff. Okay, our residents going to be happy if it takes all day for the streets to get plowed when we have snow. People seem to be pretty happy with how quickly the streets in Mounds View get plowed, particularly compared to neighboring communities. I think we all want, like you said earlier, want clean water and all that stuff to work. Some people like to see our parks well maintained. So another one that would be difficult to look at. And then on top of that, so you get your two largest departments that provide your basic services. Top of that, the city has expenses that go up every year, just like we do as individuals. We have we have two unions in the police department, and then our public works employees are our bargaining unit. There's contractual agreements with those groups on annual cost of living increases, which the city is legally obligated to meet. All right. Ramsey County Dispatch Service can increase their cost to us. Well, what do you do about that? You need to provide dispatch service. The only other option I'm aware of is you could start your own dispatch department, which will be a more expensive adventure. And cities that have had their own dispatch department have disbanded them and went and contracted with their county for that. So the reality is, folks, property tax levy increases are an unfortunate necessity of life. And I don't have an answer to how you cut them back.
We have about 5 more minutes before our half hour is up. The 2022-23 Street and Trail Project, the Community Center Expansion Project, and especially the Arden Park Development Project damaged the relationship between the residents and the city council. If elected, what will you do as a council member to restore trust and repair damage that has been done?
Well, the Arden project was a very controversial one. Ultimately, the decision was made not to go forward with it. Community center.
The question deals with how do you repair the damage?
The damage, I think, is a personal opinion. For me, the community center, I was disappointed in the result of the community center because I thought it was a real opportunity for this community to achieve some of the things it wanted, which is more restaurants and that. All I can say is, if this isn't someone attacking me personally, I just try to do the best I can to serve this community to the best of my abilities. And I have always tried to approach my position as an elected official to do what I think is in the best interest of the community. And I've been very fortunate to serve with 8 other individuals who have had the same approach, that we've all just wanted to do the best we can to serve this community. Does that mean that maybe in the end we made some mistakes? We're all human.
Okay, and the last question before your time is up. What are the top 3 things that Mounds View needs and why?
Mounds View needs and why?
Or you can use up all the time thinking.
Well, we always hear about, we obviously have open retail space. And so there's always been this desire for more retail. I can tell you that we have a person on city staff by the name of Brian Beeman, who is as good of an individual as you'll find when it comes to economic development, and who works very hard to try to bring new business into this community. But in the end, you got to have someone who's willing to come to the community. You have to have someone who's willing to open up a business. Brian has, if we had more developable land, he has a list that represents 1 million square feet of manufacturing warehouse type need. We obviously don't have the land for manufacturing facilities, warehouses to be built. You know, we always hear about we could use more restaurants. I don't disagree with that. In fact, when the city council purchased the former Roberts building and the former donut shop, Tycho sushi place, and had previously purchased what was a gas station on the corner of H2 and Mounds View Boulevard, there were two things that we tried to go after. City Administrator Erickson at the time made a call down to Des Moines, Iowa, to a company that was starting to expand into the metro area to see if they had interest. They did, but we didn't have enough land for them. They ended next door in Spring Lake Park. I'm talking about Hy-Vee. The other business that was pursued pretty heavily, which would have been a joy to myself, which Brian Beeman made several calls, and finally they just stopped returning his calls. That was a restaurant called Devani's. We tried hard to get a Devani's to go in that corner, which is my favorite place to have lunch.
Okay. Thank you, Gary, and thank you for your 12 years of service.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Scott will be the next moderator, and Zach will be the hot seat participant.
We can start the third segment. Thanks for coming. My name is Scott Schrader. I'm your host for this segment of the North Suburban Progressives Candidate Forum. We have hosted these forums for 3 city council elections now, and our rules are pretty simple. 1 candidate at a time. Each candidate will have 30 minutes for questions, and each candidate will be asked the same 3 questions to start with. First, what are your experiences that would prepare you for this job, and what is your vision for the city of Mounds View? The second, what are your priorities? And third, why are you running? You will be able to raise your hand in the audience to get index cards and pens for questions you may have. After this time alone, we will have a runner pick them up, and I will ask the candidate the questions, and if we get several related ones, we'll combine them for brevity. Tonight, Mayor Zach Lindstrom, running for another term. You have, 2 years odd on the council now?
At the end of this year, I will have had 2 years.
Okay.
So I had a little less than a year on when I ran for the mayor's seat last year and won that seat in November. And this November will be a year into that position.
And how did that period go for you? There was obviously a little bit of initial stress, filling a vacancy by death, and then going through candidacy and election right afterwards.
Well, I'll say that, first and foremost, that I want to, again, even send my prayers and condolences to the Hall family. It was very unfortunate for Mayor Hall to pass away and such a short tenure into his term, and for a position that he really wanted and would have been very good at. So that was hard, right? Like, and Al was, when I came on council, I in 22, I didn't come here with a lot of friends, and so Al was the person that I talked to a lot, and when he got sick, I used to go to the station every Sunday and ramble through the whole packet, and he'd just sit there and listen to me and just say, just keep asking questions and keep doing what you're doing, and so when I lost that and when he got sick and wasn't unable, it really changed the dynamic of what was happening here. And I've I you know, we had to figure out how to become a team without Al, and there were some growing pains along the way, right? There were some tough issues that we moved through, but we did it, and we, you know, we ended up getting a lot stronger as a team. And I'll say that, you know, in the interim, when Gary was tasked with filling in as the acting mayor, he did a fantastic job. I've seen a lot of changes through him through that process too, in terms of engaging with the public and just shouldering the responsibility of that role. And it's not an easy place to be put into when you're not expecting it. So then, you know, the vacancy came and I decided to declare for it, and you know, the community blessed me with the opportunity to serve in this position. And there are people that run for offices for different reasons. Mine, a lot of people run for a specific position like mayor because they want to be able to make decisions and they want to be able to do things, and that's really not who I am. I did it because I want to continue to be able to facilitate and make sure that the environment is free and open for everybody. And I've done my best to be able to create that kind of environment here in the council, and also for the citizens when they come to meetings, and just overall in general. I've tried to be extremely accessible for everybody so they don't feel disconnected from their local government, which, you know, has its own challenges that it presents. But I really enjoy being part of the team here, and I'm very grateful for the community for having given me the opportunity to be able to serve in this position. And you know, barring a landslide write-in campaign, I should be able to do it again for another 2 years. So I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity as well.
Let me follow up on the team aspect before I get to the prepared questions. This is not a strong mayor city. It's more of a commission type of government. Unlike what we used to have in Minneapolis until the George Floyd incident, you can't veto what the rest of the council wants to do and send it back to them to reconsider. So how do you work with the council? How does that blend in?
Well, because I'm not somebody that feels like I have to make a decision about everything, I work really, really hard to try to find middle ground with everybody. Since my tenure, I've only had one split vote, and it was a 4-1 out of all the votes we've taken. And I really think that because we are all 20% of the vote, right? Each one of us represents 20% of the vote. It's important for the thing that I do is I just try to make sure that if somebody is not quite comfortable with something, that we pull it out and we have a conversation and we figure out what it is or what it isn't. And generally speaking, we can find a way to get to the middle on most everything. We've been able to do that so far. So I would say that, you know, from where I started to where I am today, I understand there is a great importance in having continuity on the council amongst your teammates. And what that does is it makes the staff members feel like this is a good place to work because you're one of their, essentially the city administrators who reports to the council. But, you know, a dysfunctional council has ripples that go well beyond the administrator, and you know, then you run into staffing problems and you run into places where people don't want to come. in an environment where it's extremely difficult to hire police officers, and just people in general. I mean, we had the maintenance person that we hired at the community center watched our council meetings to determine whether they wanted to work here or not. Because of the city that they live in, their council's not functional. And they even reference that. They're like, I literally watched your council meeting before I decided to come work here, and you have a good team. And it also isn't, I think that I don't think it's good for the community as a whole to be super polarizing. I think it's perfectly fine to have disagreements and healthy conversation. But I don't think it's okay to have a council where you have people that are attacking each other and attacking staff members and attacking community members. Like, it's just, that's not a local government that represents everybody. And, you know, I believe what we strive here for in Mounds View is to have a local government that represents everybody. And when we find common ground on issues, I think it gives us the ability to be a government that represents everybody.
Fair enough. One more question before I get to the cards, and that is, tell us a little bit about yourself. You came to Mounds View a few years ago. You've become fairly well ensconced, obviously. What brought you here? What are you doing? What do you like to do?
Well, I'm not sure, you know, whoever watches this, what your feelings about a higher power or God or a spirit of the universe is. You know, I choose to believe in God. I go to church every Sunday, and faith is important to us. So initially I was living in St. Anthony. We moved here a little over 11 years ago. And my goal was to find a home in St. Anthony. And I had a realtor that we hired that we worked with. She had just gotten her license back. And, you know, I would recommend hiring a professional realtor if you're planning on buying a home rather than somebody that's just breaking back into the business. But however, the day that we went out, this particular time we had some appointments that we thought we were going to go to, and they didn't work out. So I just pulled up the MLS. And I really didn't want to go north of 694. And I pulled up this house. It was like, pretty, decent square footage. Cost was reasonable. And I'm like, let's go look at this. And we went and looked at it and made an offer on it, and it was accepted. But it was a complete fluke that we ended up here. What I like to do is, as cliche as it sounds, I really like to help people. And that's part of why I really enjoy being in public service. I've been helping people and volunteering since I was like a kid in grade school. I used to, like in first grade, I was like a volunteer student that would help take care of disabled children and move them around and do stuff like that. And I'm an only child. My parents, I've come from a split family. Both my parents remarried, and neither one of them had kids, as odd as that is. So I'm like an only child through 2 marriages. I'm married to a Asian woman. We have 2 children. And I also enjoy the outdoors. I'm a fan of Mustangs, and I have a motorcycle I get to ride occasionally. I have 2 dogs, and then I also have a chipmunk. I think people have heard me talk about my chipmunk once in a while. I've got a soft heart for animals too. This thing got injured 4 years ago in November, actually, and it was running in circles in the yard. So I decided to bring it in because I thought it was going to pass away, and it's like, well, having a nice place to move on would be better than freezing to death outside. So brought this chipmunk in, and the darn thing ended up living, so I still have it. And I would have brought it to the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, because technically, in order to have a wild animal, you're supposed to be a licensed wildlife rehabilitator, and I am not, so I'm kind of out of compliance in that area. But I called my hometown vet, and he told me, it's like, look, It has a brain injury. You can let it go. It'll die. You can take it down to Roseville. They'll kill it, or you can just keep it and let it be a pet. So I just kept it and let it be a pet. On a side note, I've had the opportunity to, part of my story too is I've had, I struggled with addiction in life and, had some legal consequences. And I ended up going through, prior to running in 2022, I had went through the pardon system, and I was pardoned by the governor. And I had told him that, in the event, after I got pardoned, during my pardon hearing, I was like, if this happens, I'm going to run for city council. He's like, so we get through the hearing. He's like, good on you, da 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 da. So, I ran for city council, and, the community blessed me with the opportunity to serve in that capacity. And so I wrote him a letter, and guy handwrites me a letter back. Says, good for you, can't wait to work with you, all this stuff. So, and I sent him a few updates about some of the things going on in Mounds View throughout time. Didn't hear anything. And the pardon reform bill is going through the Senate in 2023. And I get this phone call from the Department of Corrections at like 10 o'clock on a Friday night. And they're like, we got a bill going through on Tuesday, and we got your name from the governor's office. He wants you to come testify on it. Like, I'll be there. So I go there, I testify. It passes by one vote. Mm-hmm. And, the partisan politics was in full effect. Members of the other party voted it down unanimously. And in my testimony, I even, made it a conscious effort to point out that, redemption for people and second chances is not a partisan issue, right? It's not. It fell on deaf ears that day. However, it passed. And part of that bill was to create more access to the pardon system. By doing so, what they did is they created a 9-person clemency review commission. And that commission is now tasked with holding the hearings and voting on whether to recommend people get commuted sentences or pardons, the same work that the governor, the AG, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Minnesota used to do. So that had when the opportunity to apply for that became available, I applied, and he appointed me. And in June of this year, the rest of the commission blessed me with the opportunity to be the chairman of this commission. So now I'm the person sitting in the center of the table, running the hearings, talking to the person that used to be me. And it's just a tremendous opportunity, and it's very hard to say which is the most humbling thing I've had the opportunity to do, is either this or that. And man, the scale's pretty balanced in that case, but it's a tremendous honor to be able to be in a position to do that. So I'm really grateful for that. And the only reason that I've been able to do that is because of what happened here in Mounds View and with what the opportunities that the residents have afforded me and believed in me to be able to do for this community.
Well, that answers part of our stock question number 1. The other part is, what is your vision for the city of Mounds View going forward? What would you like to see?
Well, I'd like to see us continue to work on connecting with the community. We've created a community engagement committee to reach out and start talking to different corners of the community where we have historically had really low engagement. And they've been out and working on that and getting feedback as to what areas of opportunity there are for the city for us to work better and do more and be more efficient and be more inclusive. So we have the advent of that is just underway, and I think part of the vision aligns with what we've already started to work on, which is being a city where everybody's welcome, right? That's why we took on the task of the racial covenant issue, which is something that is unfathomable to me that no other city had picked this up and actually tried to work on this issue. But because of the continuity that we have on the team on the council and the unanimous support that we've had for this, we were able to do something that no other city had even thought to do, which was not only work on discharging these on a voluntary level by sending out the mailers and making sure that people know that they even exist on their home, but also requiring the point of sale discharge if it hasn't happened at that point. So, you know, we're actually have received, this last week, we received our 100th. So we've got 100 of them that have been discharged so far. And it's hard to say that you're a city that's open and welcome to everybody while you're not, if you know about this issue and you're not actively working on it, in my opinion. So I hope that other cities over time will choose to pick it up. I know that I just got a email from a neighboring city that was talking about it, and I got to say I was really disappointed in some of the responses I heard from some of their council members about this particular issue and why they didn't want to work on it. Other than that, I'd like to see us have a balanced budget. The city's been deficit spending since 2008 against a fund that does not have an infinite supply of money, and at some point in time that's going to run out. And you know, it's not a good idea to run a deficit in a business, in a household, or any other place. And there is an opportunity to really take a hard look at this year, and potentially accomplish that goal if the momentum's there to do so. And it's something that I really think that we should strongly consider doing.
Is that going to be a council decision or a voter decision to go ahead and clear out this deficit?
That would be a council decision. It would go to the voters if it were to exceed, if there was a proposed levy that were to exceed the charter limitations, which there will not be that.
Okay.
And then part of that too is that should really be explained a little bit more, is that the street fund. So in Mounds View, we're a very unique community where we don't pay assessments when our roads get done. We had a resident that was here earlier this evening whose street was done, and right across the road, that particular street was shared with Fridley, and those residents were assessed $7,000 to $8,000 per home when their street got done. And we roughly pay, as residents, we probably pay, I'm just going to grab a number out of the air and apologize if it's wrong. I think we probably pay about $15 a year on our property tax for the special street levy-ish. And you know, we don't see a bill. And I think that it's been said to me that we've probably spent north of $35 million on our streets, and Mounds View residents have contributed about $4 million. In an assessment environment, that'd probably be closer to 20 or 25. So part of the what's being talked about this year is increasing that fund to match. I mean, well, realistically, it was in 2010 when it was initially started being levied for, it was $300,000. Then in 2019, it was tapered down to $150,000. Well, I think we all know that there's nothing outside of Arizona tea that costs the same as what it did in 2019. Unfortunately, you know, money's got to come from somewhere, and we don't have a lot of options when it comes to doing these things. And I really, really do not want to be the administration that starts assessing Mounds View residents for the first time in, 15 years? So we're looking at that, and we're also looking at adding an additional $10,000 to our EDA levy, because, you know, one of the things we consistently hear from our community is that they want us to bring in and support businesses and help them get off the ground, and that requires funding. And we actually had more requests for help last year than we had funding to support our businesses. And when we're talking about our businesses, we're talking about places like Casina, like the barber shop. We're talking about Sandwich King. We're talking about like Pink Flower needed some money, and we didn't have enough to give to them, right? We didn't even have enough to support one of the staples of our community. And so there's a need, if we want to really keep these people in town, and they're asking us to be able to assist, we've got to be able to meet that call. And unfortunately, last year we were unable to. So we want to be able to do that this year. So balancing the budget and also addressing some of these other core issues that are present are really important. And also with a balanced budget, there's another thing that's on the horizon too, is which we know that the model of the fire department is going to change. Right now we went from a volunteer model to a duty crew model. And what that is that firefighters would sign up for a shift and then they get paid $15 an hour. Well, that's not working out either. And so we're spending money as a conglomerate, not just Mounds View, but Mounds View, Blaine, and Spring Lake Park. We're spending money to train people, buying them custom fit gear that can't be transferred to another agency that's unique to that person. They stay with us for 6 months and then they go to St. Paul, Minneapolis, Bloomington, or one of these other big agencies that's hiring them full time. So we know that we're going to have to move to a full-time model. And if we don't start planning for that now, it's going to be a problem later. So one of the things that I think that we're pretty united in purpose on is to really start forward thinking about the things that are coming down the road and the situations that we're going to need address. I mean, the core functions of what a council offers the city is clean drinking water, good infrastructure, parks, and you want somebody to be able to respond to a call when you call 911. And oftentimes that's the fire department or the police department, right? These are the core things that you task us as residents with, like making sure that are there and are available. And, inflation happened and personnel costs more money, and we have to stay competitive to keep people. And it's just a really tough conversation to have, but it's the reality of the time and space that we live in.
What are your priorities going forward in the next several years as mayor? You've given us a bunch of challenges that we have now, but what would you like to see participate in to get us further into the future?
Well, I'd like to see us continue to work on opportunities to try to bring more businesses to our community. I'd like to see us continue to work on opportunities to cost share different things. Like as an example, we've decided because of program participation and or lack thereof to partner with Arden Hills in a very specific relationship in regards to our Parks and Rec department and program offerings. So we have more of an opportunity to have programs that will be available and successful for children to participate in. And part of that also too is working in conjunction with the school district to make sure that we're not overlapping any of the stuff that they're doing. And also being able to fill some of those gaps that they have on like off days and things like that. And so we've been very active in communicating with some of our partners in the area. There's an opportunity to maybe look at a project with the county and a new library and maybe a service center in the area. We have, I've done my best to be an extremely good cheerleader for the city of Mounds View and bring as much visibility and attention to it by people that are outside of our sphere, or the next layers of the spheres that represent us, to make sure that when it comes time for when we have an ask, that it'll be needed and it'll be met. So I've done my best to forge good relationships with our county commissioner and the incoming commissioner. I think I have a pretty good relationship with our House representative. I'm still working on having a better relationship with our senator. He's a little bit more difficult to get a hold of. Obviously, I've I've had the opportunity to connect with the governor, our congressional District 4 rep. I've had some conversations with her, and our 2 senators. I'm still working on that. So, but having those pieces align when things come up is one of the things that I think is important for us in our city as time goes on, and we dive into other things that we need to work on. And when it comes to infrastructure and it comes to projects, a lot of these things, like, it's really hard to know what they are because they end up presenting themselves to you. I mean, one of the things that we're working on right now that I'd like to see really come to fruition over a long period of time is, we're putting together a Parks and Rec master plan, and that's going to be really cool to see what that comes out to look like. And, how do we make that happen? How do we continue to create new opportunities and services for some of our community members that we're not connecting with? So, like, one of the things that Councilmember Clark and I just had a meeting with a resident nonprofit, had a meeting with the elementary school, and we're talking about the idea of maybe offering something in the space of teaching non-English speaking parents of children in that school how to read, right? Like, these are things that need to happen, right? And it just takes a little ingenuity, time, and effort to bring some of these things to the surface. But there's lots and lots of stuff that we can work on that just hasn't bubbled to the surface yet. And so part of my vision too is just to be available and open-minded enough to look at these things when they happen and see what's possible.
I think we've covered the third question, but it's here, and we have to ask it, why are you running?
Well,
You've given plenty of...
I've given a lot of context. I guess the short answer is because I love the people of this community. I love the team that I work with, and I really love the opportunity to be able to make a difference in people's lives. It's the really, really short answer.
Okay, I'm going to go to the audience questions that we have accumulated. And I think you've already addressed the community center expansion. But if not, there was not a lot of support for the particular items that were in the project that was put to voters. And as I remember, everybody was talking about a pool and the cost was terrible. And a major project like that, what is the tipping point for you to support it?
Well, I mean, it would really, I think when we reach a project like that, we'll know when the community's connected to it. It was very obvious the community wasn't connected to that project. I think the tipping point for me would be if there was if it was meeting the needs and the desires of the community, and it was something that they were excited about. Is a pool out of the question? It just all depends on what funding sources become available for something like that, and what kind of thoughtful conversation we'd be able to have with the community about it, and see what the support level is for it. I do believe, like, part of what I do believe, or I shouldn't say part of, what I do believe is that when we're talking about something that's impacting the lives of most of the residents that live here, it's important to have a really good idea of where we're at as a community on the issue. And, that particular project, it was, residents, I think what I heard from residents on that project is that we're not interested in a sports facility per se. We are more interested in something that's specific to the community and the community's needs, They did want they like the idea of the walking track. They like the idea of the expanded fitness center. They like the idea of the senior space. They like the idea of the play center. It was really the gym expansion, which was folks were just not connecting with and seeing the value in. And so it becomes a question of what that looks like. And what I thought it looked like is it looked like we needed to find more partners to make this a viable option and spread the cost out to more than just the residents of Mounds View. And so part of what happened after that is we engaged with conversations with the school district and with the county. And there could be a potential project there. The school district has needs, and again, the county has a need for potentially maybe changing the library location. They're open to doing something like what New Brighton has, having it connected to a community center. And I know that they would really like to have a service center out on this side of the metro. There is a group that's been trying to do something in Blaine and has not had a lot of success. And so we've had some conversations with them. They want to be owner operators and are looking for a public-private partnership. And we've had conversations there, but the amount of space that they require is not something that we have available in Mounds View. But a facility like what they're talking about, it's $100 million project where they're willing to put in half the money, and it would be like kind of a national level thing. And one of the things that when you think about how do we grow the economy of Mounds View is it requires people and it requires traffic as much as we just, we have evidence of what we're able to support by what we don't have, right? We used to have a full shopping center at the Mounds View Square. We no longer do. We have restaurants that come and go because it just, we as a community are unable to sustain significant business, and it's not any knock on anyone in person or individual. It's just the reality of what it is, right? We can't all go out and eat at the same restaurant 7 nights a week or 7 days a week. It just, and so, we do the best that we can and we retain what we got. And that's why part of the EDA piece is so important. So we can, help those folks along as an administration when those opportunities present itself. But if we really, really want to grow as a community and get new stuff, we need traffic. It's just what it comes down to. And I will say that I don't think that there's any amount of building up that would create enough people or enough traffic to do that. We need something very specific that is going to bring people into Mounds View. Fortunately for Blaine, unfortunately for us, I thought that creating an Asian mall space out of what we had available, or, really trying to have a thoughtful conversation with Pastor about creating an Asian mall in the square would have been a great way to bring people to town and create more opportunity and food options for us as a community. But, Blaine decided to do it in the furniture building instead. So they're going to have that opportunity. So we have to figure out what the next thing is that we can work on. And there's all sorts of stuff that is options. It's just a matter of what makes sense for Mounds View.
We had a specific question come in, end of last candidate, and it's very specific. Why was the city in agreement to buy such an expensive tractor for public works? And I have heard that we maintain them well when they go to auction after we've used them several years. We get top dollar because of that, but you could buy a piece of lesser equipment and maybe it'll sell and maybe it won't.
Well, I think the specific tractor that was being referenced was purchased in 2021, before I was here.
Okay.
So I can't really speak to why the decision was to buy that tractor. I'm assuming it was something that Public Works indicated that they needed to do the work that they're required to do, and I'm assuming that that one in particular is probably used for ditch mowing as well as snow removal and other things. And you know, we do our best to try to make sure that our people have what they need to do, the tools they need to do the job that we're requiring them to do and the job that we expect them to do as residents. And you know, tractors are expensive. That's very true.
We have another comparison question. Taxes are always a popular way to get a discussion going. And this person looked up websites between Fridley and Mounds View. Fridley has over twice the population, 29,000 to 12,000. Average household income is probably 50% higher at 76 to 47,000. And the poverty rate there is apparently 1.7% lower. And the question, why are the tax increases happening when they have such differences? I believe that part of that has been addressed earlier, but I'd like your thought on it.
Yeah, well, that information in regards to the median home income in Mounds View is inaccurate, and I pointed that out to that resident prior to them leaving this evening. The average home income in Mounds View, or median home income, is like $89,000. The average household income is around $106,000, and you know, the average levy in our area amongst our peer cities right now is like 10.6% or 10.9%. I think if I had to make a really semi-educated guess, I'm thinking that Mounds Views is going to come in somewhere around 7. So the levies themselves, they don't have really, like, your population size isn't indicative of what kind of levy you're going to have. It's what your people cost and what the cost of doing business as that entity is. So I don't know what Fridley's levy is, but if it's on par with what everybody else is, it's probably north of 10%. There are cities around us that Vandus Heights is a 17.5, right? They have more people than we do. So, you know, conversely, there are some cities that have lower ones than we do. I think St. Anthony's is at 6.5, but what they have to offset that is they have a municipal liquor store that gives them $275,000 a year in revenue. Otherwise, they'd be at 10s. So, I mean, we can have less of a levy. We could actually, you know, not have a levy at all. But then we have to start asking ourselves what we want to get rid of. And it's what it comes down to is people. So do we want one less person plowing the streets? Do we want one less cop out on duty? You know, do we want one less person in the administration answering the call when residents come and have questions? Do we not want somebody doing code enforcement? I mean, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about people. I mean, our biggest increase across the board is salaries. It's just what it is, and I don't feel like as a community we're overstaffed. I don't feel like we, you know, or I guess the other opportunity is that we could eliminate the Parks and Rec department. That's the only non-essential service that the city funds. So we could close down the community center and we could fire everybody over there. That's our options. Otherwise, the council has had, there was consensus amongst the council 2 Mondays ago, we're going to rescind our raises that we were supposed to get next year. And we haven't had a raise in 10 years. Because if we're going to ask residents to pay a little bit more, we don't feel that it's right that we're going to take more money. So, you know, we're doing what we think is right and what we think is fair and what we think is just. But, you know, I want us to be able to respond to emergency calls when they happen. I want us to have clean drinking water. I want our roads to be plowed in the winter. I want to make sure our parks are maintained. And I want to make sure that our kids have stuff to do. And so, and I think via the community survey that we did during the community center time, I think barely below 90% of people feel like they got a good value for their money in this city. So, and the residents that I'm close to and that I connect with regularly, you know, I think we all feel pretty good about where our city is. It's just that the tax conversation is a hard one, right? Nobody I don't like them. But it's an impossible situation to be in too as an elected, because you're tasked with connecting with your employers, which is the general electorate, and lots of diverse opinions about a lot of issues out there. Then you're tasked with making sure that you have a staff that wants to work for you. And then you're tasked with making all the decisions to make all these things come together and happen and try to balance out everything to the best of your ability. And it's extremely hard.
The conservative response to a question like that is usually on the order of, if you can't afford your lifestyle, go out and get a second job. For a government, your second job is to go back to the tax man and get a higher rate.
Well, it is, and I think, again, it would really be a scenario if we've taken a really hard look at the budget, and we're going to take another hard look at the budget again in November, just to see if there's anything else that we can pull out. I mean, even if it's stuff where we're talking, $500 here, $500 there, if there's anywhere that we can find areas just to continue to chisel that down and be responsible and still be responsible to the community, to providing the services that it should have. And so, maybe a few of these small things that we haven't caught in the first two go-arounds, maybe we'll catch something else, and maybe we can make a difference. I mean, we sat down, we talked about the utilities at the work session, and the finance team was calling for a 68% increase in the water bill, and we said that we're not going to do that, right? Because we don't want to continue to overburden the community with costs that they can't, that are unrealistic for them to have to deal with, and so we are doing our very, very best to be as thoughtful about this as we absolutely can be. It's a very difficult conversation.
Yep. Mayor, I'm going to have to call time for tonight. Thank you again for coming, Zach. Appreciate it. Two more city council members will be on our agenda tomorrow night at 7 p.m. It will be here at the city council chambers. It will also be on 9 local channel on Xfinity. We'd like to thank the city of Mounds View for the use of the council chamber, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, everybody.
This is the second of 2 of our North Suburban Progressive Meet the Candidates broadcasts tonight. We want to thank the city of Moundsview and also 9 North. The city provided City Hall for us, and 9 North has stretched out the boundaries of the building to encompass the entire city. I'm Scott Schrader, your host for this segment of the North Suburban Progressives Candidate Forum. We've hosted these forums for 3 city council elections now. Our rules are pretty simple: 1 candidate at a time. Each candidate will have 30 minutes to answer questions. We'll start by asking each candidate the same 3 questions. Number 1, what are your experiences that would prepare you for this job? And what is your vision for the city of Mounds View? Second one, what are the priorities you would bring on the council? And number 3, why are you running? You will be able to raise your hand if you need a card and a pen to write questions in the audience, and a runner will pick them up, bring them to the front. I will ask the candidate the questions, and if we get several related ones, we'll combine them for brevity. And our first council candidate tonight is Catherine Smith, running for City Council in Mounds View. Welcome, glad you're here.
Thank you.
So, we'll go to the first question. What are your experiences that you would prepare to get this job done? And what is your vision that you would have for the city of Mounds View?
Do you want my vision first or experiences first?
Take them in either order.
All right. Well, I'll give you my vision first. My vision is to maintain a good and stable infrastructure, as well in such of a way that it is a creative, safe, and attractive city. Also keeping taxes within the cost of living. My experiences, I'm going to read from my sheet here. My experiences that helped me prepare for this, as I am a small business owner in the city of Mounds View of 30 years of a licensed daycare home family. I originally started my daycare to help take care of special needs children. Neighborhood Leadership Program. The Neighborhood Leadership Program from 2016 to 2017 is a course from the Neighborhood Leadership Program, and its purpose is developing and sustaining a healthy, thriving community, strengthening and connecting leaders across the communities. We learn self-awareness, engaging in meaningful action, and working effectively with others to accomplish the same goals. A professional dog trainer and a member of the United States Police Canine Association, International Association of the Canine Professionals, Vet Service Dogs, non-for-profit. I am the Minnesota head trainer, which I train service dogs for veterans at no cost or no charge. I am also a Mending Spirits Animal Rescue member, which I help foster. I am a pet retention and application specialist. Reserve officer for the following agencies. I am a reserve officer for the Minnesota State Fair Police Department. I started in 2016 as a police reserve for the St. Paul Police Department, and then in 2017 I came up with an idea as a first responder therapy canine handler, and that started in 2018, and a member of the United States Police Canine Association. My partner, Sergeant Fuzz, and I were certified first in the nation in 2021. We were originally certified in 2018. I am a training and field training officer for the Roseville Police Department in 2021 and current rank of sergeant. I am with the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office Reserves, and I was selected this spring to be on the water rescue dive team. Okay. Community volunteer appointed to the Mounds View Civil Service Commission in 2016, where I served 2 years. The Civil Service Commission overseeing the Mounds View Police Department personal operations in terms of recruiting, testing, and selecting candidates, as well as certifying individuals for appointments or promotions. The Mounds View Police Foundation, I was president from 2017 to 2018 at the request of Chief Harder, and in 2017 I met with a small group of residents to help start the Mounds View Police Foundation. I helped set up the Facebook page and created the first logo. The Mounds View Festival in the Park, I have been a member since 2017. In 2018 and 2019, I was the Mounds View Festival Vice President, and in 2020, I became the president, and I am currently the president of the nonprofit Mounds View Festival in the Park. Also with the Mounds View Festival in the Park, just to slip that in there, we have our next meeting October 22nd, and all are welcome.
Okay. Probably not the most applicable question, but dog training and daycare, how does that work together? Because my wife and I used to have one in the home, and that seems like it might be interesting.
Sometimes I'll tell the kids when it's nap time, instead of saying, come on, let's go to your cots, I'll accidentally say, let's go to your kennels, let's go. I'm like, oops. So, the thing is, you got to learn how to communicate with them. With dogs, they don't speak our language. Children, they're learning and they're growing and they're learning to adapt to our language. So it's kind of one and the same, actually.
Okay, interesting. Second question that we're asking everybody, what would be your priorities on the council if you get elected?
I have 3 priorities. My number 1 is to keep our taxes and non-essential spending down, so people are not priced out of their homes. With the consistent pushing of project add-ons, this puts us on the path of taxing us out of our homes. We need to keep our taxes within our cost of living. And if you look at our budget, you'll see there are line items that are on that budget that says other professional services. It doesn't say any more about that. You actually have to go to the city and request. What does that mean? And request for that to the further line items below. They're not a standard budget item, and that is that. But so you're like, okay, why is this a line item? Because they don't know where else to put it. It's not in the budget, correct? So what they do is they take it and put it underneath each department, and an example is that's where your community center expansion went to, your art and park expansion, and your garbage expansion. We need to actually, in our budgets, when they share this with our community, I feel that they need to make these line items in more detail. That's my number 1. My number 2 is with only having 4% of developable land. I think we need to take and be more strategic and mindful of our community and our land that is left available. We have vacant commercial properties in our city that need businesses to occupy them. We need to work on bringing in more communities. And we need to work on let's see if we can find more grants, options, and other ways to help our businesses to stay and thrive here in our community. All right. With only the 4% of the developable land that we have available here, we need to be more strategic and more mindful of building on these areas. Our community is pretty much built to its max at this point. Number 3 is our city website. Our city website is not user-friendly. It is also, it can impact your community engagement. If you have this calendar, there is a calendar on that community or on that website. Why don't we have any of the community events on that website? One place for everyone to go and look. Because not everybody is on social media. Not everybody is on Facebook. Not everybody reads their flyers or their Mounds View Matters that come in the mail. That's just a given. We need to find other ways to reach out to our communities. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, we have had a question in the previous evening, which was basically a lack of communication with the residents. Do you have any ideas on how you would fix up the website?
The website, if you go and you take our website, it's going to cost thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It depends on what company you hire, but it's going to cost money, and that comes out of your budget. If we slowly add and change things on their website so it's user-friendly for people to find and see things, we can slowly do that. Instead of just like, you can't just go and just remove everything and re-add it back in. Like I said, the calendar, that needs to be more on the communication side as well. Going out, the communication with our community, I had this idea. You had your 4 council members and your mayor. We have 4 different precincts in our city. Why don't we take one of our council members to each one of those precincts so then they can reach out to that community area and talk with them. I know they can go anywhere they want, but if they work in that area, focus on that area, they can bring that information from the community and talk to each other up and get together and go from there.
Are you thinking of formally establishing a award system, or would that be more informal?
More informal. Okay. It's just to get more more communication going with our community.
The third question we have for everybody, and now you, is why are you running?
Why am I running? All right.
It's kind of a catch-all, but
No, that's all right. We need to learn to respect our residents and value their input. I've seen a lot of disrespect, and a lot of our community is losing trust in some of our city council members. We need to work on that. We need to listen to the concerns and represent the voice, because we would represent the voices of our community.
okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so I have several questions already from the new pile. And the first one from the audience, you've talked about lowering taxes, and if you're talking about the city's portion of the property tax, where are you willing to make cuts that would actually make a difference? And the questioner wanted specifics. What would you take out of the equation?
Out of the taxes?
Out of the services that the taxes are paying for?
Out of the services. So if you look through that budget, there's so many things, and so many things you don't understand unless you sit down with somebody at the city level and say, hey, can you explain all this stuff? What I would remove is, why do we have, which I don't understand, is these buckets, okay? This other projects.
Yeah.
That's $300-some thousand on spending that we did not need to. I actually have some numbers here. For example, with our garbage, we have spent approximately $200,000 on this garbage right now, and we're still in the lawsuit with this. Okay. We also have the community center. The community center was approximately $218,000. Okay. I think we need to stop, take a time out, take a break on these larger projects, and we need to focus on just the essentials and what we need here. That's where I would cut for right now.
Okay, you get into a large project though, and you're going to find things you don't know about.
Exactly, yes. So, but if you think about it, how much have we spent in the past year or so on these? You have the garbage, community center, the garden park, and the garden. It's all together within 1 year, within 1 year's time. That's a lot of money. We're looking at $500,000 right now.
Yeah.
I understand you have to have a reserve on the side for projects, but we are above and beyond.
Okay. Something that has been a common question all throughout. Where do you stand on the organized garbage collection on the ballot as measure number 2?
Okay, the organized garbage collection. This is where I stand. First of all, I see that there are two sides, and I totally understand that there's both sides. As I'm out walking out flyers, today I had a lady that was walking down the sidewalk today, and she was walking by, I said, hi, how are you? And we were talking, and she was asking me what I was doing roaming through the community. I'm like, hey. And I said, well, I'm Catherine. I'm running for city council. And I handed her one of my flyers, and she asked me, she goes, I don't know how to vote for this. She goes, how should I vote for this? And I looked at her and I said, I can't tell you how to vote for that. I said, you have to decide that on your own. Okay? So, one, prices, all right? I understand the prices the prices are everywhere, all right?
Yeah.
The prices, I get that. Me personally, I call on the phone and I will wheel and deal. Not everybody does that. I get that and I understand that. So there's over here where people are saying, I don't want to do with that anymore. I want someone to handle that for me. I get that. Also, I get the point that it's your right to choose. We should be able to choose a hauler. We're not able to choose our own hauler that's being chosen for us. This hauler is not even from our community. This hauler is from a different state altogether. I understand that they had a few more little, like bulker items or other things that where prices were a little better, okay? But what is that doing? That's putting out our local community businesses, pushing them out of here. All right. I understand 15 years ago or so that our street projects, they planned for having heavy trucks on our city streets, so they put in a thicker base layer and placed it on the roads to handle this traffic, okay? That was part of that. When including the lawsuit and other fees, as I stated, it's $200,000 so far, and I don't know the exact number where we're at right now. Local businesses, like I said, local businesses and apartment complexes are not part of this, okay? They also do not fall underneath this business and complex plan. They get to choose their own hauler. Why, I've had people ask me, why don't we get to choose between two different haulers? Instead of just having one hauler, why can't we choose between two? That's some of the questions people have had, as well as I have. Last year, there was a petition that got us to where we are at today. This petition changed language in the charter so the residents could vote on this matter, which the residents should be able to vote on this matter and have their choice.
And they will.
Yeah.
And they will.
And we will find out after the 5th of November.
Yep. Another new question. How do you feel about the tribute park that they're going to put in the center of City Hall Park?
So the tribute park, from my understanding, is going to be funded through fundraising, not through the city, from my understanding.
Yep.
As me being a police reserve officer, as well as being involved with the police department, I think it's a great idea. I don't know all the specifics that are all involved in it. My thing is the tribute park is going to be over on the one side of the city hall over here. I was just talking with one of the company that's helping with the parks and planning and stuff like that. I don't remember the name of the thing. I don't have it written down here. But I was talking with her, and we need to find a flow at the parks here at City Hall. You have a splash pad here, you have a park over, in the back corner over here, you have over here are your volleyball courts. Way in the back is your baseball field. So finding that right spot for that over here is going to be one of my things that I'm going to watch.
Okay.
But honoring, to continue on that, to honor those, I think is it needs to be done.
All right. You touched on this a little bit, but question walked in on us. The 2022-23 Street and Trail Project, Community Center Expansion Project, Art and Park Development Project, damaged the relationship between the residents and the city council. We're hearing from some people. If elected, what would you do to build trust and repair that damage that some people feel was done?
We need to have communication with our residents. For example, we've had people sitting here and they want their voices heard and they are told to sit down and shut up. I have a problem with that. Maybe use different wordings, okay? I get sometimes when you're sitting there up here trying, as council members, trying to continue your work, but you don't ever tell anyone to sit down and shut up. Say, excuse me, we need to move on, or there's better ways of saying that. The art and park development, I've heard someone that was in, I guess there is a police report on this, someone was backed up into a wall and cornered and said they were not welcome in their people, and those people, they were called those people. I think that should have been, that bothers me. Those people are people that are in our community. Okay?
Yep.
We need to now fix that. We need to work and show our trust. Hey, we're listening to you. We're hearing you. We need to work together because we're part of this community as well as they are. We can work together. So I actually have a little saying that I put on here. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. Okay. When handling things, difficult talks can drive positive change. Avoiding tricky conversations allows issues to escalate. That's my saying.
All right. Budget issues again. You've already mentioned that you would look at the deep lines in trimming the budget. But at work sessions and meetings, somebody asked yesterday, you almost never hear a department get turned down for a budget increase. What would cause you to consider standing up and saying, I can't see this happening? How would you deal with it?
An apartment?
A department.
A department. Oh, I thought you said apartment.
Police
Like,
come in and need something. Fire department comes in and needs something. Public Works needs a piece of equipment, whatever.
You have to sit there and weigh whether it is absolutely necessary, needed, or not needed. That is very hard. How do you turn around and say, I'm sorry, you can't have this piece of equipment, and you're just going to have to deal with it. I mean, you have to look at what the pros and cons of it are. You have to sit down and talk with the department and say, hey, what is this all going to be used for, and weigh the options.
We have a carryover question on energy use. And basically, what is your stance on alternative forms of energy in the city? Solar, EV cars, public transport. Should Mounds View be leading the charge for alternative energy in the area? What can we do to improve the use of it? Do you have any thoughts on that?
On solar energy, there's programs out there for solar energy. People can have, there's grants out there from, I think the state, or I think it's from the state, not positive on that one. But there are grants on having solar energy hooked up to your home, okay? Mm-hmm. From my understanding, a few years back, sorry, Al, before Al went and got his solar car, or his electric car, I should say,
Yeah.
there was a grant that was brought up and talked about having, and the state was going to pay for it. There was a grant to have electric plug-ins at public areas here,
yeah.
and it never went anywhere. Why not, if people are going to use it? My thing on electric cars it's a matter of preference whether someone wants to use one or not. They have to come up with money. I know there's some tax deductions on it, but people have to come up with the electrical and spend their own personal money in their homes and to have that available for them.
Plus, the city, in our logos, everything is the big
tree.
old tree. We're proud of our trees.
Yeah.
And all of our trees, our house, we couldn't ever make our money break even because of all, I've got 15 trees in the backyard. And that's very common around the city, to have the property plumb full of trees and you don't have anywhere near, I think it's like 50-60% available solar in order to ever have a chance of breaking even or getting ahead, before your loans run out.
Yeah.
What projects have you championed in the past, and what would you look for in the future to get behind as a council member here in town?
What projects have I championed?
Yeah, particular projects. You know, obviously, you're doing a lot of work with police and assist dogs. But what else do you have that you might like to prioritize?
All right, mental health. I'm big on mental health. With Sergeant Fuzz, okay, Sergeant Fuzz is him and I are our first responder therapy canine team. I created that program 6.5, almost 7 years ago now. That program with the St. Paul Police Department, I actually helped write up the servicing and operations on that, okay?
Okay.
Operation procedures. It is a canine program is to enhance and assist the response and treatment of trauma, mental health by providing the well-trained dog to a medium for efforts, okay? The therapy canine will assist first responders as well as the staff in the St. Paul Police Department with help cope with exposures of traumatic events and support efforts aimed at increasing resilience to improve mental health and wellness. Now, that's how it originally started out.
Yeah.
Within one day, it changed. It changed to going out into the community.
Okay.
Okay. That dog has taught me so much, more than I ever thought it would. I mean, here I am. Just now, I am known as the human at the end of the leash. Okay. And so my little name tag, we were joking around. My name tag is going to go. That's going to say, "Where's Sergeant Fuzz?" Because wherever I go, people go, "Where's Fuzz?" If I don't have Fuzz with me. Okay. That dog, we go out to junior police academies and teach out in the community. Children on dog safety. We teach them how to handle loose dogs out in the community. We have helped with kids being removed from their homes. We have helped. One of my I'm going to try not to get emotional. One of the ladies that she still follows Fuzz and I. She went to go commit suicide, and she knew that we were in the area. No, I didn't know this was happening. Someone ran up to me and said, "Hey, we need your help." And this lady is sitting here. She saw the dog. She sat down on the curb, and we sat there for a half hour, and all she cared about was the dog and nothing else. She just sat there, and she turned and she goes, "I know who Sergeant Fuzz is." And she goes, "That dog saved my life." And I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Okay." That was pretty heavy.
Yeah. Well, that's the good kind of project creep.
So my other thing is, when I first started this project with, I don't even call it a project, it's a program, with Sergeant Fuzz at the the detention center down in St. Paul. This male was walking out. He was in his young 20s. He walks out of the building, gets into this car. You can't see anything. All the windows are blacked out or whatever, and all of a sudden it stops. Okay. He rolls the window down about this far, and he starts putting. I'm like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Right? So he goes and he takes his camera out and he starts taking pictures. And I say, "Hey." I said, "Would you like to come take a picture of the dog outside?" Yes. We sat there and talked for like 20 minutes. The driver leaves the car in the middle of the drive lane, gets out, comes over, and is talking with us as well. And I said, "Can we take a picture together?" And he says, "Yes." And you want to know, my next question was, if I was standing here without the dog, would you have come and talked to me? And he said, "Absolutely not." He said, and he says, "I absolutely hate the police." But I said, "You just sat here and talked to me for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I like the community engagement, bonding, working with people in the community. That is one of my main goals, is continuing that. Okay. Not necessarily just through dog work, but for working with the community. And I have a volunteer idea thing that I'd like to do as well.
Okay. Do you have it developed enough to mention any of those ideas?
Of the
Of the volunteer?
So if we could have a database, okay? I know maybe this community engagement unit, once it gets going,
Yeah.
okay, they could have a database of volunteers for in the community, right? So there's people out there that want to volunteer for things, but they don't know where to reach out to, who to reach out to, or where to go. And they don't all want to volunteer on one thing,
Yeah.
okay? So you have this database. You can send out an email or contact however they would like you to contact them. You have, okay, for example, October 5th, we have this. We have when they had Project Arden, when they were
Yeah.
doing the gardening, they said, you know, we have this coming up, come out and help, stuff like that. It would be great to have a monthly list that could go and be pushed out ahead of time for volunteers to come out and help.
Okay, that's a good idea. A perennial. How do you deal with conflict? Not everybody in the community is going to call you up in the middle of supper and say, wonderful job, how's it going? Things are great. They're going to say, that so-and-so did such and such, and I want them taken out, you know.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
You need to sit down and talk. You got, how else are you gonna, you need to sit there and say, hey, what is bothering you? What would you like to see? How can we help you? What would you like to see different? Or what do you know, that's, if you don't talk, that's where your conflict comes.
But the tree is already cut down, or the water is still
Yeah.
turned off, and there's nobody digging, you know, when it gets dusk. How would you deal with that? Because they're going to be hot.
They're gonna be hot. You just gotta sit there and listen to them. You can't ignore them and just walk away from them. You still have to sit and listen. Whether you are wrong or if you are right, it doesn't matter. You need to listen.
And we have covered the Tribute Park. We have had a series of questions that come up. And we are just about out of time, but I'm going to go real quick to one of them to finish up. And these are basically human rights, and I'm going to have a quick answer. What do you think about banning books, LGBTQ types, racial history? It could happen here. We had some candidates for school board that were in favor of it last election. What's your opinion on that? It doesn't have to take 5 minutes to answer that one, I don't think. There isn't a whole lot of middle ground.
Of banning books.
Banning books. It's
Okay.
not going to be in the school. It's not going to be in the
First of all,
library.
and it doesn't matter which book it is, correct?
It's going to be something that conflicts with somebody else's thoughts and ideas.
Okay. There has been in the past of them removing materials from schools. They're part of our history. You erase history, you never learn from history, and history will repeat itself. When I was in high school, we had to have permission to learn about sex education, and we had to have our parents sign a permission form.
Yeah.
Maybe the schools can work on that, or say, hey, for them to check out this, or if we're teaching this, stuff like that, they need to have a permission form.
Okay, we have run over on time. I'm sure folks at home will understand, but Catherine, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Welcome to the 2024 Mounds View City Council Candidate Forum sponsored by North Suburban Progressives. This is the fifth and final interview with a candidate. There are 6 candidates for City Council, 4 of whom were able to participate in this process, 2 of whom, Merwo and Lance, are working and were unable to do it. The candidate that I will be interviewing is Chris Lillimo. First of all, thank you to the City of Mounds View for allowing us to use this, and thank you to North 9 for broadcasting this. All the candidates were given the first 3 questions that we will ask them, and then we also solicited questions from the audience, and I have a number of them here. So we'll start with the first 3, Chris. What are your experiences that would prepare you for this job? What is your vision for the city of Mounds View? That's the first one. Second one is, what are your priorities? And the third one, why are you running? So the first one is, what are your experiences that would prepare you for this job? What is your vision for the city of Mounds View?
Let's go one at a time. Well, I'm Chris Lilimo, and I'm currently a Park and Recreation and Forestry and Sustainability Commissioner. I got involved in that in a unique way. There was a park, random park down the road from my house, which is now Hodges Park, and at the time, it was a little disrepaired. The slide was cracked and stuff, and my daughter had a fun time there, but it was just kind of a park that needed help. And at that time, I looked at the situation, and I figured I could either just try to complain, or I could try to get involved and try to make a change. And so I chose to get involved. I joined the Park and Rec Board, and I've had a great time there. I really enjoy going to parks with my daughter, and I really enjoy the parks and the trails that we have in Mounds View. I'm a huge fan of Mounds View, the large lots, the big wooded trees. I'm a huge fan of this place, and I want to continue to see it be that place, a place where we have multicultural from all different ages, all different ranges, all different cultures, and it's a great community. And so I just like to see that. I think one of my visions for it is that it become more inclusive in that way. I shop at Aldi's, just like everyone else. There's a grocery store, so I go shop at Aldi's, and I love seeing the people on their scooters going from the old folks' home over there to the Aldi's. It's so wonderful seeing that every day, and I would really like to see in some way we can maybe work with that, and incorporate that, and make Mounds View more of a city, mobile city in that area there, so that we can be more diverse for all the people and all the ages.
The second question, what are your priorities?
My priorities are to keep property taxes the same and work to reduce them. I would like to see Mounds View live in a budget and have dreams that they can fit in that budget. And I would like to, that's what I'd like to work towards, is having a good budget, staying in that budget, and then keep respecting the property owners and their taxes. Some of the ways I think that we can do that is by increasing. We have a lot of vacant commercial things here, and we've all seen the CVS just leave. We've seen the Dos Hermanos spot change 3 or 4 times, and it's finally a good spot now. And so I just really like to see more spots in Mounds View developed into real good areas that we can have a strong commercial base, and then we can take some of that load off the homeowners.
And why are you running?
Well, just for that reason. I think there's been a turn in Mounds View, a huge city involvement of the people, and I want to be part of that. Mounds View loves to come out and share their opinions, and I love to hear them. And I think we can all work together on finding answers and solutions to the future. I think previously we may have not as listened to those people much as possible, and I think that we've kind of done projects that were kind of off to the side in the wrong direction. A fun story I have is, when I first came to this town in Mounds View 20 years ago, and I never had to come ever to the city hall ever, because whenever I had a problem with the city, I would always go to the gas station that was up the road from my house, and Al Hall was working there. And Al was a great guy. Anytime I had a problem, he would sit and listen to me, any hour of the night. I could go in there at 11 at night, he'd be there, hey, let me tell me about it. And he was a great guy. And that's the kind of thing I want to bring back to this city, is having a city where we have people that can just talk and listen. I think we have a great tide going with our mayor, Zach. He's having the coffee times on Sunday and stuff like that. I think we have a great tide going of community involvement, people being listened to, and better results happening from the city.
Following in that vein, this was asked of all the candidates both yesterday and today. The 2022-2023 Street Trail Project, the Community Center Expansion Project, and especially the Arden Park Development Project damaged the relationship between the residents and the City Council. If elected, what will you do to rebuild trust and repair the damage that was done?
Yeah, I think tremendous damage was done. I was part of those things, and I was here speaking my truth about those things too. We really lost our way in Mounds View here. We stopped listening to the people, and we did projects that were off of what they didn't want. and we spent a lot of money doing it. And so that's something I want to get involved with, is making sure we're more focused and living in the dreams that our community has, not just dreams that some people have. And so, yeah.
And you made a statement about eliminating property taxes totally.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the entire tax bill, the entire city tax bill, or the city, school, and county? Where would you get the revenue for city services?
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally on just a mindset level, property taxes are unfair. We're renting land we already own, and it's not really a fair thing. And so the idea, I understand why they're there at this moment in time, but we need to find new ways to come up with new funding sources so that we can take this burden off the people. Because every time we have a problem, every time we go down a false path and make a big project and we doesn't path, we can't just go, oh, this is put on people's property taxes. That's unfair to us. That's unfair to the people. And so we have to come up with new sources. Like I was saying before, some of the things I think of is that we have a lot of vacant buildings, and we got to get these buildings full of good businesses. And there's lots of ideas out there. I hear them. One of the ones I've heard from our community is that people want a brew pub. I love to have a brew pub here. That'd be kind of cool. I don't drink much. I don't go to the bar much, but I would go to a little community brew pub. That'd be a great thing to have in our community. So, I mean, I think the ways to do that though is what I want to get involved in. But I think the big thing is if we can find ways to incentivize businesses, maybe with grants or reducing tax burdens for a couple of years so that we can get established. Maybe we can help businesses establish in Mounds View and stay and thrive.
Did you actually say totally eliminate property taxes?
I mean, like I said, fundamentally on the level of it, I would like to eliminate property taxes, but there's a lot involved in that because some of it's from the county and some of it's from the city, and so there's two different sources there. But on the city side, what we can do is we can run in a balanced budget, and we can live in that budget, and we can stop having these dreams that are going outside of our budget.
Okay. What projects have you championed in the past or would champion as a member of the council?
Well, I mean, I'm very passionate about parks. I've we've redone 3 parks during my time. We've opened the temporary dog parks we have in our community, and I mean, I'd love to continue to make Mounds View a community of trees like we are. We're a community, a nature-driven community in this community, and so I want to continue to protect our green spaces. And I want to actually find new green spaces that we can also protect. Instead of when we find a new space, say, how can we put a house here? I want to say, how can we put something green here? I think that'd be a great idea for us.
What is your stance on alternative forms of energy, solar, EV cars, increasing public transportation, and others? Should Mounds View be leading the charge for alternative energy?
I mean, I think when it's smart and it's a great option, I think we definitely should. I'm all for alternative forms of energy. I think that God provides us a great source with the sun of unlimited energy, and when the sun's gone, we're gone. So why not find a way to, run our work days, our lives off of that resource? It makes complete sense to me. The technology is moving forward, and we're getting there. I'm a huge fan of Tesla cars. Love those cars. Those things are amazing. You can sit back and they just drive them themselves. The technology is really coming ahead with this stuff, and it's going to move forward in the future. And we need to be part of it at Mounds View as it makes smart decisions as it comes.
Communication is a major issue. How would you change how the council and staff approach residents with information? I
am a champion of this one. I agree that our communication has been very poor. Our website is just substandard. I think it's not easy to find stuff on. I don't know. Maybe we can get a new web developer. We'll keep doing that. We can get a better website first off, and we just have a better social media presence. Numerous times I've seen links posted from the city that don't go anywhere. They go to the wrong spot or something, or I see. People from the city reference something like, if someone asks a question like, where is something? They say, oh, it's on the city website. Instead of just saying like, well, let me go, if you know where it is on the website, but why don't we find it and then bring the link and say, here it is on the website. Some other things I would like to do is also be available to more ages and people in different areas. And so one thing that we really have a good luck with here in Mounds View is our newsletter. I'd like to see that continue to grow. Because people love it and they love getting something in their hand and reading it. But also, as with the younger community, I'd like to find new ways there's TikToks, there's Snapchats, there's all sorts of things that the younger community is doing also. And I'd like to see Mounds View come up with some of those avenues too, so that we're reaching all people of all ages.
How do you deal with conflict?
Oof, conflict. That's a good
It's
one.
right there. That's, I didn't make it up.
How do I deal with conflict? Well, really it's just about listening. Most people just want to be heard, and we don't have to agree at the end of the day, but if we let people say their piece and we listen to them, then we know they're hard about it, and we can let that impact us and make the changes it makes. And so with conflict, the best way through it is just to find a way to work together.
What do you think about banning of LGBTQ and racial history books in schools and public libraries around the county?
I'm sorry, what?
LGBTQ, lesbian, gay,
Yeah.
bisexual, transgender question, and racial history. What do you think about banning books?
Well, I'm not for banning of any books. I'm for freedom of speech, and I think that all books should be available. I think that the information should be available to everyone, and that people should make their own decisions based on the information they read.
How do you feel about the Tribute Park?
I'm a huge fan of the Tribute Park. I think it's amazing. I'm glad it's coming to fruition, and I think that it's going to look beautiful, and I'm glad that we can honor these people that have done things for our community or done things for our country, and it's great that Mounds View's spearheading that.
What are the top 3 things that Mounds View needs, and why?
I think Mounds View needs, first and foremost, needs to rest and relax for a little bit. We've been doing a lot of big projects that have gone nowhere, and I think we need to just kind of settle down for a second and really just take the pulse of the community and see what they want, and then start making our dreams with them instead of for them. Some other things, the 3 things, I'd also like to see, again, I'm a huge fan of living in a budget and keeping our property taxes low in Mounds View. And the other thing I'd like to see is, again, protection of our green spaces. I'd like to see more green spaces, protection of our green spaces. As Mounds View grows, which we are going to grow over time here, we're going to need more parks too. And so the question is, where are we going to put those parks? And so I'd really like to be part of that.
When budgets are discussed at work sessions and meetings, I rarely hear a department get turned down. How would you approach trimming the budget?
Well, just the way I say when I run my house, you go with the needs first, and you go with the wants next. And the needs have to be fulfilled first, and then once then we can have the wants. I think the big thing on that is just focusing in on the right wants for our community as opposed to what we've been doing before.
Where do you stand on organized garbage collection?
Well, I think the community's come out multiple times on this topic, and we've been very adamant that we didn't want it. We've chosen to push down this path this time, and we've come up with a price. It's better for some. It's worse for a lot. There's other communities that have gotten better prices, just to Anoka closer. And I think that for me, I'm a huge fan of speaking with my dollar. My dad always told me, if you don't like something, you speak with your dollar. And so I don't like the option that we're losing our freedom of choice. I like when I have a problem with my company, I can call that company, I can say, can you fix this? And how will you fix it? If I don't like what they're saying, I can say, I'm going to change to this company. And that's the freedom that we all have in this world to do. And I want to continue to have that freedom, that we can have a choice, we can choose, and we can make relationships with the companies we want to make relationships with.
I'm running out of questions, so if you have any more, please bring them forward. If you were on the council when the budget was balanced, what is your rationale for supporting major projects like the community center, for example, among other major expenditures when the community wasn't supporting it?
Okay. I didn't support that. I did not support that option. of supporting the community center. So if I was on the council, I would not have supported that. It didn't live in our means and our balance of our budget, what we had, and we spent a lot of money on something that didn't go anywhere. I think that in Mounds View, we need to find new ways to communicate with the community, hear what their dreams and inspirations are, and then as we hear them, then we can see if we can fit those in our budget and work towards those, as opposed to just kind of going willy-nilly down whatever route and spending all this money. And so to the answer, I would not have been for it.
If presented with the choice to overspend the city budget for community enhancements or to stay within the budget for the financial benefit of the city of Mounds View, which would you do?
I mean, I guess it depends on what the enhancements were. I mean, if it was something that was necessity or something that would take Mounds View to a new level where we might have a new way of creating more income or revenue or make a better community for our people, then we'd have to weigh the cost of that thing. But for me, I am really big on living in a budget. Every person in this world has to live in a budget, and I think our city should also do the same thing.
I'm at a loss for what to do because I've run out of questions.
There are questions I think people are writing.
Okay, all right.
Oh, I'm taking the questions.
Are there any organizations or community groups you'd like to see created or partnered with?
I mean, I guess that'd be up to the community on what we want to do. I think there's been a vibe lately that we want to move towards more community gardening, and I'm all for that. We're working a deal with the school for an area there that we can have a community garden where people can get plots of land to have a garden there. I've also been really excited that we've been moving on this chicken route, and I'd like to see Mounds View continue to go down that route of making it maybe even easier to have chickens on your property. I think that I like living in that way of being involved in our food sources and knowing what it takes, and so I think all people could benefit from having these sort of animals and raising them and being part of their own food choices. And so yeah, I guess I would like to see Mounds View continue to move to partnering with groups like about that, like farming. And
How are you campaigning?
how am I campaigning? Well, not the best because I got hurt here, so it's been a rough couple of weeks here. But I've been trying to get out, knocking on doors. I've been going to all the community events that have been going on and making sure to get out there. I've answered all these requests for things like this, and 9 North did a little thing. I was on that. It's just really about getting out to the community, talking with the people, and letting them know who I am and what I'm about, and then also hearing who they are and what their dreams are for Mounds View. So yeah, other than that, I'm just going door to door, and I'm taking phone calls and emails. I'm pretty active on social media, so people can find me there also.
What do you see as a way to make the community center profitable?
Well, that's actually a good question. The community center has a lot of things going good for it. Being part of the park board, I get to be privy to a lot of the back end of the community center, and I know a lot of things that are going really good there. Our event center in the community center is booked a year and a half out right now. It was booked a year out, we moved it to a year and a half, and now we booked it out a year and a half. And so that thing's booked solid. And so there's actually a profitable business there, and it's doing well and it's thriving. I think that we could find new ways to maybe expand that. If we're booked out a year and a half, maybe we could find ways to expand that to capture that revenue. I also know the senior program there is an amazing program that's very active, and there's a lot of people there every day, and that's generating a lot of revenue too. And so I would really like to see some investment in that to make their area a little bit more usable for them, so they can continue to generate the money and also give the benefit to the community of having this resource to all the people there.
How would you propose to increase DEI involvement in the city, diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, I guess for me, I'm always a fan of just quality, and so I like to pick. I think everyone and everywhere we're at in this world is rated on performance. When I'm at my job, the top performers excel, and so for me, I'd like to see that. Now, if there's a gap with a diverse community and that is not being recognized because of that, I think maybe we can find ways to fill that gap. But as far as for me, I would always like to pick the best candidate. I mean, the best quality person.
How do we create new housing opportunities in Mounds View?
Well, I'm all for, I like to say, smart redevelopment. Mounds View has very little space left, and so what space we have, we've got to be really creative with. I would like to see, like the Project Arden project, was a project that was a bunch of houses stuffed way back into our community where all these cars would have to get from there out to our main trunk road through all these narrow roads. It wasn't a very good source or solution. I would like to see, if we do expansions, that we keep multifamily things closer to the trunk road so that we can divert that traffic quickly out of our city or to the the buildings and businesses, or they can get out of the city to their jobs and stuff like that. But as far as other housing, I would like to see where a single family home is, we put a single family home back. I would like to see that we develop what is smart to develop, and I would like to see, but I also don't, I'm a champion of green space. I'm a champion of protecting our green space, and I want to find more green space. And so in doing that, our option can't always be what can we do for more housing. Mounds View is growing at the pace it's supposed to grow. We've met all the qualifications for the Metro Transit, or whatever the Metro Council's qualifications for expansion. And so I think we just continue to move forward with smart redevelopment. I would love to see our big strip mall up here, hopefully someday redeveloped to something with maybe like apartments above it and businesses below it, so those apartments can also feed those businesses and keep those healthy and striving. I'm a huge fan of our Mounds View businesses like Pink Flower, Casinas, Dos Hermanos. I'd love to see more of these businesses, and I'd love to see those businesses stay, thrive, and continue on.
Any other questions? Well, I thank you, Chris, and I thank all the candidates for taking the time to do this, and also the audience. And I hope it's seen. It's going to be seen many times over 9 News or 9 North, right? Okay, and of course the election is November 5th, and you can vote now if you go to Ramsey County on Plato, and I believe on the 18th you can vote at the Roseville City Library, and it's also Shoreview Library, okay, on the 18th.
And absentee.
Absentee, right. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Thank you.